The Southern California area right now has been shaking off a series of rainstorms and even snow. Now, why am I mentioning that? Well, when there's been rain, there's going to be waterfalls. Big, luscious waterfalls that might be just mere dribbles in the summer. So, here are two ephemeral gushers to see before the inevitable heat. Our first hike starts at the bottom of Solstice Canyon. Directions to the trailhead are in the description. Head through the parking lot, past this gate, and turn right up these steps. This is the TRW Loop Trail, which we're on for a few minutes as the route climbs above the canyon. Cross this road, which leads to an overlook. Then, at this junction, make a hard right onto the Rising Sun Trail. And rise it does. Over the course of a mile or so, we gain about 700 feet of elevation. The path hits the road again where we turn left and pick up the trail a short distance later. The climb continues. On this day, there was the usual morning coastal overcast, but on a sunny afternoon, the shadeless path could get sweaty. After about a mile, the trail starts down into the canyon. The descent ends at this stream. After crossing it, turn right and take the steps up to the waterfall. If you want to nitpick, this is really more of a series of cascades. But even with the railing holding you back, it's still a beautiful destination, especially after a rain. Beside the stream, in what has got to be one of the greatest locations for a home, are the 40-year-old ruins of the so-called tropical Terrace house. The Roberts Tropical Terrace house was built in 1952 and designed by Paul Revere Williams. Turns out he was the same architect for the Lon Chaney cabin alongside the Big Pine Creek Trail in the Sierra Mountains. I've left a link to my video for that trip in the description. The owner, Fred Roberts, came to Los Angeles from the Midwest in the 1920s and made his fortune with a chain of grocery stores called Roberts Public Market. The idea was to blend this structure into the surrounding wilderness. He also made a point of using fire-resistant materials along with an elaborate fire protection system. Unfortunately, his dream house burned down in the 1982 Dayton Canyon fire 6 years after he died. Turns out, once Roberts was gone, there was no one to maintain the water pumps he had installed. Now, the property was eventually deeded to the National Park Service in the 1980s, and that's why we can visit the site today. Once you've explored the ruins, grab the paved road and begin the mostly downhill return trip to the trailhead. You are now in a calming oak forest with the rushing creek for your soundtrack. No need for earbuds. Less than a mile from the Roberts house, we come to the Henry Keller cabin. He had purchased a wood version of this home in 1901. It burned down 2 years later. So he rebuilt with stone, and his design resisted any more fires until 2007, when it was destroyed in the Corral fire. Are we sensing a theme here? Now continue down the road until you arrive at the parking lot. Time to drive down the highway for 2.5 miles for our next waterfall. The second hike goes to Lower Escondido Falls and starts at this paid parking lot on Winding Way Road, just off the Pacific Coast Highway. Head from the lot to Winding Way Road and turn left. I will admit this hike has a lackluster start. Well, unless you enjoy looking at multi-million-dollar homes, and who doesn't? After less than a mile of easy uphill walking, we start downhill and into Escondido Canyon. Look for this trailhead sign and turn left. We are now on the Edward Albert Trail, with the waterfalls a mere mile or so away. Oh, by the way, not everyone has a trail, albeit a short one, named after them. So let's consider Edward Albert for a moment. He was an actor with 130 film and television credits to his name. Now, presumably that's not why he's honored here, but because of his advocacy work for Native Americans, in particular the local Chumash tribe, and his time on the California Coastal Commission. Now, generally speaking, they don't name a trail after you if you're still alive. So let's note that Edward Albert died in 2006 at the age of 55. That's slippery. Okay, after a rain, the route has a few watery obstacles. As is sometimes the case, Mrs. Hall led the way. There are 5 creek crossings. Depending on the time of year, you may need to summon a great deal of balance and coordination to get across all of them. The easy walking wide trail climbs a bit to where you'll be able to see 150-foot Upper Escondido Falls. Look, but don't touch. They are on private property and off limits. A few minutes later, the path dips to the thundering 50-foot Lower Falls. As you might expect, the 2-mile return trip is the same way you came.